Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Mathis. I'm a physical therapist that specializes in neurological physical therapy. My colleagues Jackie Thomas and I are both certified in the PWR program, which is PWR. It stands for Parkinson's Wellness Recovery, and it's an extension of the BIG program developed by Becky Farley, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We really like the progressions that they've made with the PWR program. It takes the basic 5 movements of the BIG program and it kind of develops them a little bit further. These movements that are developed in the PWR program are done in a multiple variety of positions. They're done lying on your belly, lying on your back, on all fours, seated and standing. The idea is that we need to use movements in all of those directions in order to be functional in life. We're on our back and on our belly, getting in and out of bed. We spend a lot of time seated, so we need to be able to get up from a chair, things like that. We spend a lot of time standing, so developing movements in that direction are helpful as well. And then actually we're infrequently on all fours, but we can get a good stretch through the trunk, which is very important with Parkinson's. So all 5 of those directions are very important. Jackie's developing a video for you guys today about some sitting positions, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the standing ones. So the 4 main positions in all 5 settings are called the power up, the power rock, the power twist, and the power step. I'm going to go through each one of those with you today so you can see what those look like in real time. So the first one we have is the power up. Now the goal with these movements is to make them as kind of over the top and elaborate as you can, because Parkinson's tends to minimize the size of movement. So we're going to make it bigger to kind of overcompensate for that. So I'll show you from the side. The first movement here is sitting down with your arms forward and then coming up, really focusing on good posture here. Look up. That will even bring your posture up a little bit higher. You can take a deep breath here to try to get that good extension in the chest. Your hands are going to be out, and they're going to be out when you come up as well. So this is the power up, and down. From an exercise standpoint, you can do this repeatedly. I often give my patients the recommendation to do 10 of the power ups in a row. You can even go slow on the way down and power up for an extra added push. You can see my hands, my palms stay out on the way back up. We're working on extending those fingers. You can exhale, big breath in to get an extra oomph on the stand up part here. That also helps to get your lungs expanded, get your posture up. So that's the power up. Next we have the power rock. Now, I meant to mention the power up is good. A very functional movement for us is getting up from a chair. That can be very challenging as time goes on, so that helps with that functional task of standing. The next one is called the power rock. This is a weight shifting exercise. We need to shift our weight in order to be able to step. And sometimes the freezing aspect of Parkinson's is because our body has difficulty with that weight shift. So we're going to work on that with this next exercise. What you're going to do is keep your feet wide. You're going to shift your weight to the one side, reach your arm up as high as you can, and look your gaze to your hands. Our posture tends to shift where our eyes go, so we want our eyes to follow our hands with this exercise. So it's shift at the hips and look up. Shift over to the other side, look up at the other hand. To make this big and exaggerated, you're going to have your feet wide, shift, 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 shift. So one thing to keep in focus on is how wide my base of support is. By having my feet wide, it makes me stable, and I really want to make sure that I'm getting my hips over to each side as I'm shifting each time. Again, we can aim for 10 repetitions. Each side would be 1, 2, 3, 4, focus on those big fingers. 5, 6, 7, and you can see I'm shifting so far over that I'm actually on my toe on the opposite side because all my weight has shifted to the other foot. 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so that's the power rock, working on our weight shifting. The power twist has a component of weight shift as well. We want to get some rotation through the trunk because of that rigidity, stiff feeling that's very common. So with this one, same thing, you're going to keep the feet wide so that you've got a nice stable base of support. Arms really wide for this one. So you're going to have feet wide, arms wide. The goal is to turn at the hips. So you're going to rotate this way. You'll see I shift all my weight onto the standing leg. Again, this back leg is just giving me a little bit of balance. I actually want my belly button to turn towards the wall. So we start arms wide, feet wide. Shift your weight onto this right leg, and you're going to turn and clap. The goal is to get the hands together by rotating your waist and not by doing this and just reaching your arm over. You want the whole body to turn. And then don't forget posture. Open up nice and wide in between. It's going to be shoulders back, hands wide before you turn and do the other side. So it's going to look like this: feet wide, arms wide, palms spread. Shift your weight, turn and clap. Come open to the middle. Shift your weight, turn and clap. Come open to the middle. That would be 1 repetition. This one is challenging. If you can get to all 10 repetitions, go ahead and do so. But you may find that especially having your arms up for that long can be pretty challenging. And the goal with these exercises is to do it right. So if you're noticing the quality is declining, your arms are drooping, you're not turning as far, stop there. Take a break. You can always add some more later, but the goal is large, exaggerated movements, turn and open. Turn and open. There's a lot of progressions for these exercises that a physical therapist is familiar with. We can increase the speed to work on things like bradykinesia, which is those slow, difficulty starting movements. Or we can do them slow and really drawn out to work on that rigidity or stiff feeling that comes. So there's a lot of ways to change them and make them what you need, but this is kind of just a basic understanding of how the movements go. So like I said, you can go to 10. If you feel like you can do it, here's a side view. So my posture is up, chest up, turn. So I'm facing, my hips are facing all the way to this side when I turn. All right, so that's the power twist. The last one is the power step. So for this one, we're working on that stepping motion that's very necessary with walking, also with getting your feet in and out of a car, or if you come to a threshold, being able to lift your foot up high enough to step over the threshold or any sort of obstacle in your way. So the goal for this one also has that weight shift that we worked on with the power rock, but there's an addition of the foot moving and taking a step. So you're going to have hands on thighs. The goal is to take a big step. So you don't want to do this. You want to try to take a big step, like you're stepping over a log maybe that's fallen on the ground, And then you want to work on that posture. Chest wide, arms open, hands wide. And I'm actually leaning enough forward that I'm putting my weight through this front leg. I'm not still standing back here with my leg out. I've shifted forward. Then I'm going to lift that foot up, back to the middle again. We're going to do the same thing to the opposite side. So again, big step out, chest up, head up, arms back, fingers wide. Bring that step back, and then we're going to repeat. So if you're just doing this for repetitions, again, I like to start with 10 on each side. Just like the twist, this one can be really tiring. It's a lot on the arms, and you're taking big steps with the legs, so they may tire out quickly. If you notice that your movements are getting smaller, might be time to take a break. We want to aim for quality. It's not the number of repetitions you do, it's how many can you do really well. We really want to focus on that big step. Arms wide, chest up, fingers spread. Back in. I like to think of this as the tap dancing exercise with your fingers doing jazz hands, and bring it back in. All right, so 1 repetition is 1 on each side. If you can get to 10 with good form, you can aim for 10. So the things you want to think about as you're doing these exercises are good posture. You want chest up, shoulders back, shoulders in line with your hips, and have your head up. Your posture follows your gaze. If you're looking at the ground, you're not going to have good posture, but that improves as your head comes up. So think about putting maybe even a target on the wall to have something to keep your posture up and your gaze up. You want to focus on large size, large amplitude movements so that we overcome that bradykinesia, or the minimizing of movements that comes with Parkinson. So you want that step to be big, the arms to be wide and spread. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of ways to vary these exercises, and a physical therapist who's familiar with this program can do that for you. This is just kind of an introduction to the 4 main up, rock, twist, and step motions that are done in standing. There's a version for all of those on your back, on your stomach, and all fours and seated as well. But this is just an example of the standing version. So there are progressions that can be made from here. These can also be done in order. So instead of doing 10 repetitions of each of the 4 movements, you can work on putting the movements together, because that's something that's also a challenge. For Parkinson's, sometimes it can be hard to do a flow of movements together. Maybe you can do the one movement, but incorporating them into a sequence is the challenge. So you can practice this in sequence. And the goal would be to do 1 of each, the up, rock, twist, and step in a row. And it would look like this. So we would do 1 power up, 1 rock, 1 twist, and 1 step. So that would be putting the movements into a flow. From a different angle, it would be the power up, the rock, the twist, and the step. And you can do a couple of those flows in order to get the sequencing aspect a little bit better. There's also some walking exercises that are part of this program, and I'm just going to stick with the basic one. So basically, we want to keep walking. It's good for us from a functional standpoint. It's good from a movement standpoint. The longer you're active, the better it is for your body. So we want to function in a way that we can do it longer. So to have better balance, your feet are going to be a little bit wider apart. We're going to add kind of exaggerated arm movements because sometimes the arms don't want to do what they're supposed to do. And it may come as a surprise, but those arm movements are actually a part of how we walk. So the more those arm movements become stiff and rigid, it actually impacts the whole movement. As our arms move, it moves our trunk, which moves our pelvis, which helps to initiate the stepping motion at the legs. So what we want to do is exaggerate those motions so that they happen a little bit more on purpose. So to do the walking, and I'm just going to do it in place here so you guys can see me, but you would do this maybe around the house. So it would be a big step with a big arm. Okay? And from the side, again, wide support, so widen your feet a little bit. You're going to take a big step with a big arm movement. Now it feels a little bit silly. The goal would be to walk almost approaching what looks like normal. It's going to feel big to you. The movements are going to feel exaggerated because your natural occurring movements are actually smaller than they normally are. So the goal would be to do a walking program around the house where you slow it down and really focus on looking at that arm movement and the size of the step. A lot of people are familiar with the boxing programs for Parkinson's, and you can add some of that punching movement with this walk. And I'll show you how that looks. Instead of just swinging the arms, you're going to punch it across as you walk. And what that does, it adds that rotation in the trunk, which is hard when things are starting to feel rigid and stiff. So it loosens up that rotation in here. That even more encourages better stepping motions with walking. Get some upper extremity exercise too. Makes that arm move when sometimes it wants to stay tight by your side. So from the side, you're going to see it's, okay, so you're crossing across your body. One thing to notice here is that the opposite arm goes forward. When we walk, I'm stepping with my right leg, my left arm's coming up, and switch. Sometimes it's hard. We don't usually think about walking when we walk. We don't think about which arm's going to move. So when you do think about it, it's hard to remember which one's supposed to go. So when you take your first step, set yourself up for success, put that right foot forward, left arm out, and then go from there because you're already set up to do it in the correct manner. And then it's going to be the same thing with the punch. It's going to be the opposite arm that's punching whenever you're stepping forward. So this is just a basic overview of the power up, the rock, the twist, and the step, which are the standing versions of those. And seeing a physical therapist to get the progressions of these exercises, some things that are specific to you. There's a lot of things that are known out there that we can do to help Parkinson's, and this program is really full of a lot of them. So there's a lot of things available to make movement feel better, feel easier, and more functional. And we are here to happily do that for you.